Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening once again. Welcome to Eastern Washington's biggest and best event, Washington Policy Center's 2017 Eastern Washington Annual Dinner.
So tonight's national anthem will be performed by charter school students here in Spokane. Please rise and welcome the Spokane International Academy Middle Chorus under the direction of Stephanie Peterson. And we want you to keep standing following the anthem. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Hunter Kozel of WPC's Young Professionals Club at Washington State University.
I tell you, it's great to be back in Spokane. It's pretty crazy in Seattle. It's nice to get to some friendly turf.
And what an image we saw of that charter school choir singing the national anthem tonight. Nobody was talking about charter schools in Washington State other than the Washington Policy Center 5 years ago. And no one would have thought that image would be there 5 years ago until we introduced the idea back to our state, and all of you and the voters in our state passed that. And no one would have thought of that image just 12 months ago when it was under threat, and we had to fight with other groups to save charter schools in a bipartisan way in the state legislature. And as you heard Robin say, the enrollment has now doubled for charter schools. There's now 4,000 parents who have a taste of school choice in Washington State.
Thank you everyone for being here tonight to support WPC. I do have an important announcement to make, and I'm really excited to share with everyone here tonight that we will be opening an 8th research center. And this is due thanks to the seed funding provided by a very generous WPC supporter. And this new center will focus solely on labor reform issues and protecting workers' rights in our state. Labor unions in our state exert undue influence on policy making. So why do they enjoy this influence? And as Craig just mentioned, it's because Washington is a forced unionism state. Workers in Washington must pay union dues or fees in order to get and keep a job in a workplace that is represented by a union. It doesn't matter if they don't want that union to represent them. They have no choice. They will pay those dues and fees. The union then takes these forcibly extracted dollars and uses them to elect lawmakers who will support their agenda. These elected officials then do the bidding of labor unions. They pass labor-friendly laws, which in turn allows labor unions to grow their membership rosters, collect more forcibly extracted dues, and so the cycle of special interest corruption continues. WPC's new center will promote labor reforms that will work to end forced unionism, protect worker rights, and make Washington State a state where workers have a choice. And speaking of ending forced unionism and protecting worker rights, I'd like to now introduce Rebecca Friedrichs. She is a public school teacher who has been fighting this battle, leading this battle now for several years. Tired of her union's uncompromising policies that hurt children and teachers, Rebecca became the lead plaintiff in a case challenging the forced unionization of public school teachers. The U.S. Supreme Court heard her case, and after oral arguments were heard, most every constitutional expert, legal pundit, media, and even the labor bosses all agreed. The writing was on the wall, and the court was poised to render a decision making the forced unionization of public school teachers, and by extension all public employees, unconstitutional. Now, unfortunately, Rebecca's case was left unresolved with the unexpected passing of Justice Scalia just 1 month after oral arguments were heard on her case. But Rebecca has blazed a path that others are now following. We have cases working their way through the court that revive her legal challenges. And as a matter of fact, we're going to hear from the U.S. Supreme Court tomorrow whether they will hear one of those cases, a very important case. But tonight, we're going to hear from Rebecca Friedrichs. She's going to tell us a little bit about how she went from her odyssey of a public school teacher who just wanted to educate children to the lead plaintiff in one of the most important legal cases of our time. Rebecca?
And my master teacher sat me down and she said, Rebecca, today's the day you learn about teachers' unions. And she taught me about teacher tenure. And at that time, I didn't fully understand it. I actually thought it meant 10 years, which it doesn't. But that would help a little. But I've come to learn that it's tenure with collectively bargained grievance procedures. The two of those things together literally tie the hands of administrators, and they cannot do what is right for the children. So when I became a teacher, I did not want to join the union, and I was told, if you want to teach, you will pay the union. Here's what I found out, because the union will tell you, oh, Rebecca's not telling the truth. She doesn't have to join. Well, that's technically true. I don't have to join and be a member and pay their dues, but I have to accept their representation and pay their fees. The difference between dues and fees in those days was about $50. So I saved $50 becoming a fee payer, and I was forced to fund the abuse of the little children I was hired to serve. And I thought that was immoral. So after 10 years of that, I couldn't get anywhere, so I decided, I know, I'll become a full member. I know, I'll serve as a leader in the union. That'll work. I'll do it from the inside. Because my friends agreed with me. The teachers, the good teachers, they knew something was wrong. So I served in the union executive board, my local union, for 3 years. And you know what I found out there? Union leaders who are full members have no voice. They have no real vote, and if they dare to speak out in opposition or to even question union policies or behaviors, you are bullied and shunned. But within 6 months, I was the lead plaintiff in a federal lawsuit suing these suckers, and that's sort of the evolution of my experience. The straw that broke the camel's back. I was union leader, and the downturn of the economy came. This isn't very long ago, like 2010 or something. And we were going to lose several outstanding teachers. They were all going to be laid off for the crime of being new. That's it. They were great, but they were new, so they were going to lose their jobs. So I went to the teachers on my campus. I said, hey, what do you say we go to negotiations and offer a 3% pay cut? We make good money. All these parents, I teach in a lower income neighborhood. Parents are losing their jobs, they're taking pay cuts. This would be really good political or PR for us, and we'd be in solidarity with our neighborhood. The teachers wanted to go for it, so I took it to the union board, and I said, hey, what about a pay cut? We save these jobs, we keep the class sizes low for these children. No way. The union said, no way, teachers will never go for it. I said, I'm speaking on behalf of the teachers. I'm their representative. They want to go for it. Long story short, no, 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 no. So I kept nagging, and finally, to shut me up, they said, look, Rebecca, Don't worry about those teachers. The union's going to take care of them. I kid you not. We're going to offer them a seminar on how to get unemployment benefits. And they did, and every teacher lost their job. I never asked for their representation. Secondly, my union was voted in when I was a child. I've never had an opportunity for a vote. We've never had a recertification in our district. Next thing I would say, the union's values and my values are polar opposite. So my values are, I want to do a great job for the children I've been hired to serve, and I want to protect them. The unions want to do everything for themselves. When the unions come and take my money, and they use my reputation to get what they want, and they use the apple pie image of little children and public schools and parents and the PTA, and they use all of that for their benefit, they're the free riders. They're free riding off of me. And what I would ask each one of you in this room to do is to please adopt a teacher. I know that sounds silly, but every person knows a teacher. Adopt one of them. Put your arm around that teacher and start educating that teacher so that when we do win this freedom, they know it and they know that they can opt out. We are going to win this battle, and we are going to chase these abusers out of our schools. We have to.
Okay, well, Rebecca, thank you. And at this point, I'd like to invite President Dan Meade-Smith onto the stage for a moment as we present you with a very special award. It is the Columbia Award, and it is WPC's highest honor because you are a champion of freedom. And I'll just read what it says. In grateful recognition of nearly 3 decades of service to the teaching profession and for an unwavering commitment to advancing the principles of freedom of thought, freedom of association, and worker rights. Thank you, Rebecca.
So Dan asked me to share something really quickly, and thank you. This is really sweet. I am just humbled that you even invited me. I get to come speak on the same night as Nigel Farage. Come on. Oh my gosh, you guys are sweet. And I have to tell you, every woman that came in that photo line had a crush on him. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. So I just wanted to... It's true. So I just wanted to thank you for this. And I wanted to read something to you really quickly that just inspires me. This is from Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill said, never give up on something that you can't go a day without thinking about. Well, I can't go 1 minute without thinking about how much the unions abuse the children in this country. And I can't go 1 minute without thinking about how much they've ruined my profession, how much they're destroying our culture, and have destroyed our educational system. So that's why I'm in this fight, and that's why I'll keep up this fight. But it blows my mind that someone would give me an award for doing something I love. It's just my passion. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I thank you again for your support. Because of people like you, people like me can do something like this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So this is a special night for many reasons. One of the reasons is we have an opportunity to honor the great work of some hand-picked citizens with our Champion of Freedom Award. When we were narrowing down the options this year, we did not have to go far. 3 gentlemen recognized are doing something simple but powerful. Pushing back against Washington State's perverse system of secret collective bargaining negotiations, they changed the rules in their county to make collective bargaining proceedings more transparent to taxpayers and voters. They've stood firm after being threatened by Union forces and inspired other counties to follow suit. The Lincoln County Commissioners are our 2017 Champion of Freedom. Excuse me? Excuse me? What? You're kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have a bit of a program glitch here. It looks like I've just been told the Lincoln County Commissioners are in Davenport City, not Davenport Grand Hotel. Chris and Jason, can you shag them real quick, please? Okay, great, let's give Chris and Jason a hand. Let's go. Oh boy, man. Just when things were going so good, I'll tell you what. Why on my watch, Dan? Boy, well, they're on their way. As many of you know, Chris and Jason Mercier, our government reform director, were responsible for bringing video conferencing technology so that state capitol proceedings could be seen in remote areas of eastern Washington. And I believe that we should be able to tune in as we follow their short trek to the Davenport to pick up the commissioners. Can we do that? Can we do that? Can we follow?
All right, Craig and everybody in the ballroom, we got this thing on. It's working. Everybody can hear us okay. Chris Cargill and Jason Mercier, here's what we're going to do. We're out in the hallway. We're going to go and get in WPC 1, head to Davenport and get the Lincoln County Commissioners, bring them back here so they can receive their Champion of Freedom Award. This will only take a couple of minutes. We're sorry for the scheduling snafu, but let's go.
Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. The moment in the straight line. You're going through a time.
All right, Jason, so we're out here on Highway 2, headed to Davenport to get the Lincoln County Commissioners, bring them back to the Grand so they can receive the Champion of Freedom Award. This is a big deal, but a lot of people don't really know what the Lincoln County Commissioners did and why it's so important.
What these commissioners did is decide that their public employee funds, the thing that drives the budget, determines how much we have to pay in taxes. It's going to be open. It's going to be transparent.
Yeah, no more of this behind the closed doors, like negotiation. This is all going to be done in the public. And you know what? That should make a lot of people really happy.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
So Jason, the great news about all this is now there are other school districts, counties, cities all across the state of Washington that are following Lincoln County's lead. Well, Jason, look, we're already here. It's downtown Davenport.
Chris, I never doubted.
Oh, there they are. It's like you guys were waiting for us.
Commissioners, we have a major award for you and 1,000 people patiently waiting in Spokane. So let's go.
All right, so we've picked up the Lincoln County Commissioners. Now we're back on Highway 2, headed to the Davenport Grand, and I think we have them stacked in there like cordwood back there, Jason.
Yeah, the real public servants all there in the back seat. Now we do have a quorum, but we're transparent. We're open government, so we got videos recording. This is for everybody to see. And if you think about it, you guys face some serious challenges bringing us this open government reform. Can you tell us about it?
Ever since we passed our transparency resolution last September, we've been challenged in a number of ways on whether it was legal to do what we did, and everything they've thrown at us so far, we've been able to shake it off.
Shake it off, huh?
'Cause the players gonna play, and the haters gonna hate, baby. I'm just gonna shake it off.
We're shaking off the challenges because we just know it's the right thing to do for the citizens, the taxpayers, and our employees. But what a lot of people don't realize is about 75% of our budget goes to our employees. It's the biggest thing we spend money on. So when we try to balance the needs of the county, this is just the right thing to do.
That's right. We have the responsibility to inform our public, our local citizens, how we are spending their money.
We just couldn't stop the feeling of that we had to do something.
We got a Justin Timberlake fan in the back seat.
So just dance. So just dance.
Commissioners, we know you're still facing some fireworks and the union is knocking you on this, but so far you're batting 1,000, and we know you're going to keep hitting it out of the ballpark for taxpayers and government transparency.
That's right, Jason. We just believe that elected officials should not get to decide about what the public should and should not know about how their tax dollars are spent.
Well, gentlemen, I don't know how we did it, but look, we're already back in Spokane. It's been only about 4 minutes. I give the credit to 2 Bs, bow tie and bald power.
Well, Commissioners, let's go get you your Champion of Freedom Award.
We are the champions, my friends. And we'll keep on fighting till the end.
Ladies and gentlemen, our 2017 Champion of Freedom Award recipients, the Lincoln County Commissioners. Joining me to present the award is Don Stafford of Wells Fargo.
Thank you guys for coming clear to Lincoln County to pick us up for this very special award. And when Chris said we were stacked in there like cordwood, I think that was an understatement. I think that was about the tightest quorum we'd ever had. But what a tremendous honor this is for us to receive this Champion of Freedom Award. It's pretty awesome. And for us opening our union contract negotiations to the public, it's just the right thing to do, and not only for the taxpayers, but the employees as well can see the employees too can see how their union wages are being spent in those contract negotiations. But my question has always been, what does anybody have to hide? And the answer really should be absolutely nothing.
We are really growing our presence on college campuses. Could all the students tonight from Washington State and Gonzaga and any other college in Eastern Washington please stand and be recognized for joining us tonight? We have over 80 students at the event tonight. Another key component of our outreach to young folks across the state is our Jennifer Dunn Thompson Scholarship. We award a scholarship of $15,000 every year. And tonight, I'm excited to announce this year's 2017 Jennifer Dunn Thompson Scholarship recipient. We were thrilled to receive some outstanding applications and were able to provide funding to 2 outstanding students, with 1 young woman rising to the top, Stephanie Jareau. Stephanie is a 3rd-year law school student at the University of Washington. She received her bachelor's in communications also from the University of Washington. Here are some of the things that really stood out about Stephanie. Her leadership positions and activities: she helped restart the Federalist Society on campus, serving as their club treasurer. She's the associate editor-in-chief of environmental law and policy. She's involved with the Women's Law Society, and she interned at PACCAR. She has an interest in entrepreneurship and plans to pursue business law, and wrote a fantastic paper called How Entrepreneurship is Essential to Economic Prosperity. After 3 straight years of having our recipient from Washington State University, we thought we'd give another school the opportunity to get the scholarship. But Stephanie actually has long Eastern Washington roots and spent many summers at her grandfather's vacation property on the Pend Oreille River, and really has a great memories of her time in Eastern Washington. So I'm proud to present tonight the 2017 Jennifer Dunn Thompson Scholarship to Stephanie Jareau for proudly reflecting the leadership, commitment to public service, and personal values of Jennifer Dunn Thompson, for representing the bright promise of a rising generation, and for exemplifying the talent, hard work, and willingness to carry Jennifer's ideals into the future. Presented tonight, September 27th, to Stephanie Jareau.
I would like to thank the Washington Policy Center for this generous scholarship, as well as Irene Song, who introduced me to the Washington Policy Center, whose ideals really align with my own values. I look forward to pursuing a successful and influential legal career in Seattle and continuing my relationship with this really important and influential organization within our state. So thank you again.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, the man who led Brexit, Nigel Farage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, Washington State. Good evening. Good evening, Spokane. Good evening. Let's get this party going. Before I got involved in politics, I was a Thatcherite supporter. I believed in what Margaret Thatcher stood for. I believed in what Ronald Reagan stood for. And I come from the same hometown, a place called Westerham in Kent, that has a very famous house called Chartwell, in which Winston Churchill lived in too. So it is, Rebecca, great to see you tonight on this stage, getting your award, because what you have stood up as an individual and fought for, despite all the abuse you've received, to have stood up for the rights of the individual not to be forced to join a trade union, is something that Thatcher and Reagan and the great people in politics over the years would have defended, and I'm honoured to be on the platform with you this evening. I really am. But I tell you what's really interesting, as somebody, and don't forget, before I was in politics, unlike virtually everybody in career politics today, I actually had a proper job before getting into elected office. How about that? And I spent 14 years working for American corporations, mostly based in Chicago. Yes, I worked in the commodities business, and I loved it. I loved it. I worked blooming hard every morning, and then lunch often got in the way. But anyway, there we are. But what I've learned in the last few weeks, since I was very kindly invited down to come along and address the Washington Policy Center, is the amazing reputation your organization has across the whole of the United States of America, that you are the #1 state-based policy research organization in the USA, and I congratulate you and everybody else for doing that. No, I've heard great things about the Washington Policy Center, really good things. I'm told it's professional. I'm told it produces great research. And yet, I have to say, despite the kindness of your invitation, I am tonight, in all of you, deeply disappointed. If that protest outside is the best you can organize, something's going wrong, folks. Oh, how I enjoyed on the early evening drinks, leaning over the terrace and baiting the protesters. I had a lovely time, but I'd love to see more of them. And one of the great joys of 2016, and I put it to you, that 2016 is a year that will stand out in 100 or 200 years' time. It was a year of a political revolution. And one of the great joys to me was that, much as I love America, it upsets me that we always follow you. America gets a cold and we start sneezing. You know, whether it's a trend in music or fashion or clothes or food or whatever it is, America does it first and we follow. Well, the great thing about 2016, from my perspective, was that with Brexit, we started this revolution. But we are now a year on. We are now a year on. And there are some very big lessons, in my view, to be learned. Those that we fight against, the vested interests of the establishment, or perhaps, in American terms, the swamp, which I rather like as a phrase, I must say. These people ain't giving up easily. These people have had decades of the good life. They're not about to surrender it to you, the ordinary businessmen and women and ordinary folk and voters of America. And a year on, my boy, aren't they fighting back? Look at my country. Look at my country. Every big business organization telling us Brexit has been an horrendous mistake. Our own political class, sadly, I'm afraid to say, including our Prime Minister, who, much as she may have the same sex as Margaret Thatcher, is an entirely different person to Margaret Thatcher. And we're seeing Brexit being, I'm afraid, watered down, softened, delayed. I got into politics for one very simple reason. I could simply not believe that the people that led my country no longer believed in it, no longer thought we were good enough to run ourselves, make our own laws, and they signed us up to this grand European project run by unelected bureaucrats, a bunch of old men who were failures and mostly corrupt to boot. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to fight these people. I'm going to stand up and fight these people. So I got involved in politics and I fought various elections and I got myself elected to the European Parliament, and the years went by and I found myself in a rather more prominent position. And then in 2010, we were told that the European Union was going to have a president. It was going to try and replicate in many ways what the USA is, and we were going to have a president. We were told this president would become a person so enormous, so powerful, that he would stop the traffic in Washington and Beijing. And I thought, crikey. You know, they must have got someone pretty good. And the speculation was that it might be Tony Blair, but it wasn't. And in the end, I heard one morning that the guy they'd chosen was a bloke called Herman Van Rompuy. Briefly, Prime Minister of a country called Belgium, which isn't much to shout about in my opinion. So here was this grand ceremony where the European project decided it would take its place on the world stage, and in walked Herman Van Rompuy. Scruffy little bastard, in my opinion. You know, hair hadn't been cut, plastic injection molded shoes, that kind of thing. And he walks in, and the global media are there, and it's all, you know, trumpets playing and fanfares. And Van Rompuy gets up and makes his speech, 17-minute speech, which was like a dirge in my view. And then the other great leaders of Europe stand up and say, what a wonderful chap he is. Isn't it marvelous? We've got this wonderful man. And the leader of the Conservatives says, for he's a jolly good fellow, and the leader of the Socialists says, for he's a jolly good fellow, and the Liberal leader says, for he's a jolly good fellow, and it's all going swimmingly. Until I get up. The leader of the Eurosceptics. And I said, I don't wish to be rude, but... Now, if any of you have ever had teenage kids, you'll know that if they say, Dad, I don't want to be rude, but they're about to be very rude indeed. I said, I don't wish to be rude, but... I said, I've never heard of you. I said, the people of Europe have never heard of you. I said, and you appear to me to have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. And the question that I want to know is, who are you and when can we get rid of you? And this was the speech, in a sense, that catapulted me from being a very unknown member of UKIP in the European Parliament to perhaps being known on the world stage. And the moral of the story, folks, is if you believe in what you're saying, if you believe in what you're doing, if you have a cause that you wish to fight for, then don't at any moment in time be afraid to upset or offend or break the lines that are considered by the establishment to be dignity. And if you can do all of those things and make people laugh at the same time, you just might win.